Good morning, everyone. This is Sayali Gaikwad, All India Rank 641 in CSE 2020. I scored 209 in the interview last year, and I am here today to share with you my journey from 160 in my first interview to 209 in this interview. So, brief intro about me. I have done a Bachelor's of Engineering in Computer Science. My optional was Political Science and International Relations. So, I also pursued a Master's in the same subject, that is Political Science. The first thing I would like to share is the journey. When I went for my first interview, I was around 22 years old, fresh out of college. It was my first attempt, and somehow it was very daunting to appear for the UPSC interview because so many people have told you so many things about this interview that 5 distinguished members will be evaluating you on the basis of your knowledge and personality traits and everything. So when I entered the chamber of the UPSC interview, I was really nervous and a lot of self-doubts were there, whether I would make it or not. At the back of my mind, thoughts were running like whether I'll be selected or not. And with that same tension and nervousness, I entered inside. And I answered the questions. Some places I faltered, some places I scored some good answers. And this year when I went, I was already working with NABARD, a National Agricultural Bank, for a year. And I had decided to myself that I'll be confident and I will have my self-belief intact and I will be happy whatsoever. So when I entered the interview hall this year, I was a very happy person, full of confidence and self-belief. And that really changed the direction of the interview this year, is what I believe. So I'll be sharing those tips in detail with you. So in the beginning, I'll start with general things to prepare for the interview. First is the Daf. So the Daf will contain information like your name, your email ID, mobile number, date of birth, address. So every single word in the Daf, be it your name, father's name or surname, if it has any deeper meaning, you should be knowing it in depth. These are the basics of yourself, and you should not be faltering on basics. Otherwise, you would come across as a very ignorant person. Then there are some words in your address, for example, Dr. Ambedkar Nagar. So it is very obvious that questions around Dr. Ambedkar will be asked to you. And these are some things in your DAF which you should prepare very well. Then your hometown, you should know about the issues in your hometown or your state because questions will be asked. For example, I come from Pune. So I was asked this question, what is the one problem that you would like to solve about Pune? So regarding your hometown, if there are specific issues or if your hometown is famous for something, you should be very clear about that. Your parents' profession and their names. So a lot of our upbringing is related to that and direct questions will be asked. Sometimes it so happens that they ask you very basic questions and you keep thinking, why are they asking me these questions? So this is for two reasons. Firstly, if these questions are asked in the beginning of the interview, it is for making you comfortable with the atmosphere. And the second reason is to know better about you, where you come from, where your roots lie, what kind of upbringing you have, all those things. Then your educational qualifications. So your educational qualifications are the basis for you reaching the interview stage in some way or the other. And they'll be asking you questions related to your school or college or your graduation. So before the interview, just brush up on your graduation or the last thing that you did before your interview. So right now, this is my analysis that since the last thing one of my friend did was he was working with the government already for last 3 years. So most of his interview went on those lines. I was working with NABARD and I had recently shifted to Chennai because that was my posting place. So I was asked a lot of questions regarding Chennai. So just be aware of the last 2-3 years what you have done, and prepare well accordingly, and prepare very well regarding your graduation also, because they may or may not ask you questions about a graduation, but it is still better because these are the very basics of your DAF, and UPSC considers takes graduation very seriously. Then there are employment details, whether you were working anywhere, or your journey of UPSC, whether you were only giving attempts since you started, all those things. And then there is this hobby section, leadership positions that you have held, or medals and prizes and scholarships, sports, and other extracurricular activities and interests. So now that the DAF is already filled, I won't go into the difference between hobbies and interests and all of that. But I would really like to say that hobby is one place where your body language should be very happy and you should know about your hobby in detail. Sometimes it so happens that people write down something in the DAF because they're not really sure of leaving the hobby section blank. It is not their hobby also, but still if you falter over the basics of that hobby, you will come across as a very fake personality. So it is always better that you should be prepared about whatever you have written in your DAF. So for example, if somebody has written traveling as your hobby, and you get asked what was the last 3 places that you have traveled, so you should not fall into a dilemma, okay, when was the last time I traveled or anything. You should be prepared for such questions, and those tips also I will share how to be prepared for such questions. And the last thing is your service preferences. So your service preferences, at least the first 5 to 6 preferences are directly relevant, and questions may be asked over your preferences. If you have some unusual preferences, like some people give Indian Revenue Service as the first preference, or Indian Foreign Service as the first preference, then that also has to be prepared well in advance, and reflection has to be done on about what exactly made you write that service as a first preference, and those answers should be watertight. There should not be any confusion regarding those answers. So now I would like to discuss some mistakes that I have done, and I have also discussed with many of my batchmates. What are the don'ts for a UPSC interview? So the first mistake to make is using extreme words, or using a lot of negative words in the interview for any answer. It shows that you are a little skeptical or cynical. It also shows you in a negative attitude. For example, one of my friends had this question that there is a lot of intolerance, and crimes against women are on the rise, and a lot of riots are happening in India, and this was not the case 30-40 years ago. So why do you think it is suddenly happening now? So he answered that question verbatim. I'll quote him. Sir, yes, sir, it is a very shameful and pitiful thing that such things are happening in India. And I think our society is not has not matured enough, and it still needs a lot of assimilative attitude to be brought in, etc., etc. And it was a very it was his personal belief, and it was the use of extreme words was very frequently done in this answer. So while analyzing, while looking back, we understood that our personal belief may be different, but when you're sitting in the chair of a civil servant, you would think differently. So for that, you should speak constitutionally correct language, and choice of words is very important. So what he could have said is, It may not have been his personal belief also, but he could have said that, sir, the use of technology or social media, etc., has brought in a lot of visibility for even small issues which are being amplified in the society. And then there are vested interests among the society. There are fringe elements in the society which take undue advantage of such visibility, and things are being done by the government in a positive light, and the society also is going through a transition. But I am hopeful for a better and harmonious future of our society. So this is one way in which he could have answered that question. Then second mistake is that your opinion should not be one-sided or extreme. Always be balanced and well informed. Mostly what happens, we live in an era of echo chambers. So if you're following Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or even WhatsApp, a lot of perception is built, and we are bombarded with the same kind of perception that we follow on social media, and that really makes our opinion one-sided and even extreme in some cases. So avoid being sensational in your thinking first of all, and then it will also reflect in your talking. So I would suggest that avoid social media to study current affairs, or avoid sensational sources of information like television during like until your interview is over. I would suggest that you switch only to the newspaper where there is no sensationalization of news, etc. So that way, and follow 2 newspapers so that you get a better perspective, and form opinions in the sense that you think like you're already a civil servant. Think responsibly and form your opinions in a very constitutionally correct, politically correct manner. Third is talk responsibly like an officer. So what happens is when we are fresh out of college or even otherwise, our personal beliefs are so unfiltered sometimes, or if we have not worked with the government before. That is one difference that I felt in myself when I appeared for this year's interview, that having worked for the government, I already understood what the government is doing, what kind of initiatives it has done during the COVID times. And then as a nodal officer for one of the schemes of the government, I understood that although I was working with a great speed, things were getting delayed beyond my jurisdiction. And then I understood that this is something that nobody has a control over. There are systemic structural delays which nobody intends to do within the government also. So this nuance reflected in all the answers that I gave this year. So when we are studying for the UPSC for a year long, and we are just caged in our study room or in our homes, we tend to form a lot of strong convictions and opinions that this should change in the government, this is ethically not correct, this is wrong, and this should why it is taking so much of time for such a small thing. So that kind of attitude shows you in a very childish or naive manner, in the sense that we come across as a student or an activist or a journalist, and we are here to become civil servants. Like I'm just reading out what a notification says. So the candidate will be interviewed by a board who will have before them a record of the candidate's career, matters of general interest. Objective of the personality test is to assess the personal suitability of the candidate for a career in public service by a board of competent and unbiased observers. So the word personal suitability is very important here. If they perceive you as somebody who is very, very critical of the government initiatives, or who does not have a basic understanding of how the government works, then they might find that you're not personally suitable for this job. Because as a civil servant, you have to work as a team, you have to work in a system of hierarchies, you have to be patient, and you have to be a team builder, and all of those qualities will subconsciously and spontaneously come out in the duration of the 20-25 minutes the interview takes place. So I would really say that form your opinions in such a way that you understand both the sides, that if there are some things going wrong, why they are going wrong, how they can be corrected, and be constructive during your preparation, and be a very positive person during your preparation. Keep away from negative people, negative thoughts, and being critical of everything, or having very one-sided opinions. Then the next thing they say is a personality test is intended to judge the mental caliber of a candidate. Assessment of not only intellectual qualities but also social traits and interests in current affairs. So if a basic question is asked about Russia-Ukraine conflict, and it is a very broad question, and you seem to falter over it, that does not portray you as in a very good light, because you are aspiring for a career in the public service, and this is an issue which is affecting every aspect of our personal as well as public life. So this is something you cannot falter on. This is very basic. So again, I'll stress on basics, that there are some large issues, even if your optional is not international relations or political science, some basic things you cannot say that I don't know. And social traits. So for example, once this question was asked about a dowry system, so it was a very negatively loaded question, and my friend, he is from Haryana, where the sex ratio and is low, and women issues are very prevalent. So the question was, why is dowry system still prevalent? Women are getting so empowered and educated and all of that. So the answer that he gave was that dowry has become a issue of social prestige, and so even if women are empowered, so he completely missed out that part, that women are empowered but still dowry is prevalent. Why is that so? So he only kept talking about dowry, and there also he was lacking a conviction that dowry is bad in itself. So such social traits where you are confused or in conflict, those should be avoided. If just test yourself, judge yourself on the basis of your DAF. If there are any such areas where you need to form better opinions, or you're not convinced about your opinions, you just write down those areas and brainstorm a lot on those areas. Next, the notification says some of the qualities to be judged are mental alertness, critical powers of assimilation, clear and logical exposition. So mental alertness is presence of mind. I'll come back to that later. Critical powers of assimilation. So sometimes what happens is the member asks you a question in a very longish monologue, and we are already so stressed out and so nervous, and half of our mind is occupied that what if I don't get selected this year? I'll have to write prelims again. I'll have to go through the whole cycle again. What will I say to my parents? All of those things are running in the back of your mind. And then the monologue comes and you miss the essence of the question. And you feel very hesitant to ask again. And so you comprehend that question in some broad way, and then you start answering. And they immediately understand that you have not understood the question well. You were not alert. So for this, presence of mind is really important, and I'll discuss that in detail later on. Clear and logical exposition and balance of judgment. So when we answer questions, when we have heard the question, we are very impatient to answer them. And most of us subconsciously, we don't take a pause before answering it. So our questions are not well articulated in our mind, and that shows the confusion in our answers as well, in the delivery as well. And if our points are not ready in our mind, the mind will linger onto a single issue, and you go deep vertically into that same single issue, and then they have to nudge you to also tell about the other aspects of the answer. So that should not happen. For logical clear exposition, you should always take a pause of 2 to 5 seconds depending on the question. Ask for more time if needed, and then only answer it. Variety and depth of interest, ability for social cohesion and leadership, intellectual and moral integrity. Ability for social cohesion and leadership. So again, as I say, that our personal beliefs are our personal beliefs, and nobody can really enforce what is right or wrong in our personal sphere. But when you are sitting in the interview chair and when you're answering retired bureaucrats and when you're conversing with eminent people from so many fields of life who have worked, who have dedicated 30, 40 years of their life in that field, you have to be really alert of the position that you're talking from. You are an aspiring civil servant, and that responsibility and that nuance should come into your answers as well. So even if your personal belief is not coherent with what you would do in the capacity of an IAS officer or an IPS officer, you should still speak a very constitutionally correct language. Intellectual and moral integrity. Integrity will be tested through a variety of ways. If they ask you 2-3 kinds of questions on different things, different topics, and if your stance is not consistent, it is very easily detected that there is a conflict or contradiction in your own mind. So that should not happen. And I would suggest that you go through the notification, the part that they have described about the interview/personality test, and you write down all these words and you try to imbibe all this through different types of exercises that I'll be sharing in some time. Then this thing commonly happens when questions are asked in a negative direction or they're already in a negative direction. You have to provide both sides of the argument. So one of my friend was asked this question that don't you think 24/7 news has disrupted human life and it has affected human lives badly? So they had already channelized his mind in a certain direction, and he also took cue from that, and he said, yes sir, I think people have gone into depression and people have become very negative because you are constantly hearing negative things the whole day, etc., etc., etc. And he continued with this single line of thought through his whole answer. But the other side of the story is 24/7 news has also helped solve crimes, or it has also helped society in positive ways. It appreciates whatever is happening in the social sector, or it has helped in humanitarian aids and initiatives, etc., in real time. So real time constructive use of 24/7 news is something positive that he completely missed. So that is one thing that you should keep in mind when you are directed in a certain way. You should be alert of the positive as well as the negative. See, every single thing will have a positive side and a negative side. And in the interview, you have to come out as a very optimistic person for the future, as a very honest person, and as a person who is not cynical or skeptical or negative in outlook. So always have that optimism that every single thing has a positive side. Obviously, apart from things like some social evils like discrimination or caste system or dowry or crimes against women. So these are the areas where you have to be on one extreme, on the positive extreme. But rest of the things you have to show the positive and the negative side. Basics are very important. Basics, when I say, is related to your DAF, related to your optional, and related to your hobbies. So hobby is one part where you cannot falter on the basic factual details. Like my hobby was studying saris of India. I like to dress up in a sari, or I like to collect saris from different parts of India. So the last member 5 asked me what is warp and weft. So this is a very basic factual detail about a sari, and if I had faltered on that, I think it would have portrayed me as a very fake personality, that okay, she has written this but she is not really into this hobby, or she doesn't even know the basics of this hobby, so she has not spent much time in this hobby, or she or it could also come out as if I just wrote that as a fancy thing in my DAF. So that directly is linked to your moral integrity or your intellectual integrity. So this is how they are going to judge the traits that they have mentioned in the notification. Then the sixth thing is the most important, I feel. Do not worry. Do not make it an issue of life or death. It is a opportunity given to you among 1800 odd candidates this year. All of you are winners already. You have reached the interview stage following a very grueling process of prelims and mains, and from 10 lakh odd candidates you have been shortlisted for conversing and conveying your thoughts for a better future of India with the best minds in India who have worked on the field, who have worked as bureaucrats. So you should take it in a very positive stride and not be worried or not be burdened that, oh, now how am I going to talk to these personalities, or there is 300 years of experience, 150 years of experience sitting in front of me, and having a lot of self-belief whether I'll answer them correctly. This is the most common mistake, answering them correctly. See, there is no correct answer for questions like apart from the factual questions. When questions are asked about opinions, what do you think about this issue, or what is your stand about this issue, there is no correct or wrong answer. It all depends about how correctly you justify your stand and how within the constitution you are. I think these are the two tests of judging your answer and preparing your answers. So performance pressure should be avoided. Do not be bogged down that it is an interview and it is a UPSC interview, there are other candidates. The whole aura of that building really worries you a lot. So do not be worried and enjoy that moment, enjoy that process, that you are in such a prestigious place and you are talking to such eminent persons of different fields. Next is be concise. Do not give very long answers. What this means is, why we give long answers is because the answer is not ready in our mind. So for example, I was asked this question, Sayali, what do you think about how India will look like in 2050? And then I smiled at him, and then he said, I know you are not an astrologer, but still give it a try. So I took a pause of around 5 to 7 seconds because it was a really important question to me. I took it in this side that he is asking me as a future bureaucrat, and my outlook for a 2050 India has to be suitable for that chair. So I told myself that you have to think like you're already an IAS officer or you're already a civil servant. So the answer that I gave was very objective. So I did not use any fancy word there. I said, sir, the poverty levels will be much lesser than what it is right now. Then I touched upon economy, international relations, that we are multilaterally aligning with so many partners. We are not rigid in our ideology anymore. And partnership building is something that we are looking at, which will eventually help us build a better India. Then social field also I took that I am extremely proud of my generation and my peers, that we are a less dogmatic generation than before, and we are more assimilative and accommodative to different ideas or values that are not really something that we believe in, but we will respectfully agree to disagree. And I said that because of all these factors, I believe that India will be a harmonious and stable society. And that is where I ended that answer. So looking back, when I got my score, there are a few answers in the interview that I felt like this answer, that I felt that I gave a really grounded and concrete answer, and it showed that I was optimistic for a better India, and I was not cynical that so many riots are happening and there is intolerance and there are communal conflicts and there are crimes against women, and we need to change this or we need to change that. So coming back to the same choice of words, so you have to acknowledge that there are problems, but the choice of words to display those problems or to convey those problems has to be very positive. As in, you cannot use very negatively loaded words like no, we are doing very superficial development, or it is not really in line with our goals and ideals and all of that. So you can still convey your convey the issues at hand in a very constructive manner. So talking constructively is very important, even if you're talking critically about the government or any initiative or any problem in our society. Don't go inside the interview hall with negativity or bias. So there are so many things that we have heard from so many people, that some panels give more marks than others. Interview cannot be prepared for. Interview marks, you just go in with your luck. If your luck is good, you'll get good marks. Otherwise, it is all luck based. And current affairs, if you have not studied current affairs, then you will get a very bad score. Or if you have answered 4-5 questions in your interview with I don't know sir, I'm not aware of this sir, you're going to get really bad marks. So do not go inside with all this negativity and bias. I'll go back to what UPSC has written in the notification. You sincerely go through that para every single day until your interview is over, and you will understand that it is your personality and your traits that they are judging. They are not judging you through the knowledge or your information. Information was already tested in your prelims, and your analytical skills and your writing skills and your comprehension, all that was tested in your mains. So now when it comes to your personality test, they are really looking forward for your trainability or your suitability to the public service. So if you go inside that hall with a bias or with negativity or with anxiety or with fear in your mind, that fear will always reflect in your face, in your eyes, in your body language. It really takes, according to me, this is my personal opinion, it must really take 5 minutes for them to judge us as future civil servants, because they have been on the field and they have been doing public service for so many years, and judging a person's integrity and social traits is not very difficult for them. So if you have negativity or conflict in your mind, you resolve all those issues even before going for the interview, because that will subconsciously and spontaneously reflect in your body language. Then some do's, I've already said this. Be constitutionally correct. If your personal belief is something different and the constitution says something different, most of the time try to direct yourself to have constitutionally correct beliefs. Even if not, even if there is a conflict in mind, when in that chair, when you're giving the interview, I would really request you to keep your personal beliefs aside. I'm not saying that you have to lie there or you have to be dishonest about yourself, but that is somewhere you have to behave like a future civil servant. So that responsibility has to be reflected in your answers as well. So choice of words is very necessary. Then there are some officer-like qualities that are being tested, that are already written in the notification, which will help you to understand why they are asking a question. So regarding my interview, they had asked me a question that I come from Pune. So there are a lot of foreign students coming in the Pune University for studying. So the member asked me this question that don't you think it has destroyed the fabric of Pune, the social fabric? They come with different cultures and everything. So it was a question in a very negative direction, and there was some truth to it as well. So when I answered that question, I said, sir, foreign nationals coming to Pune, they bring with them their own culture, and they also assimilate with the culture that we have. So barring some fringe incidents, we cannot generalize that all the foreign nationals have something to do with the social disruption. Secondly, every city is undergoing a lot of cultural transition because of the youth educating themselves. They are trying out different fields, they're trying out different job opportunities. And in the era of globalization, social media, so many things are getting more visibility. So I try to take it to central position, that I acknowledge that there are problems, but the problems cannot overshadow the positives also. So you have to convey this balance of judgment, that you do not judge any issue in only one way, and it is always better to be in the center, as in you should not be very positive also and very negative also. If you are very positive or you're only stating positive things, it will come across that you don't have the knowledge of social realities or the ground realities that are haunting India today. And if you're too negative, it will show them that this person does not have any hope in the future. The person does not have belief in himself or herself, or in his or her generation as such, or the ecosystem that he lives in. So being balanced is very important. Third is write down the answers. So this is a very practical tip. Sit down with your Daf and make a questionnaire. I believe most of you have already done it, and write down those answers. Only practicing answers or giving mocks will not help you, because while talking, we use words subconsciously and spontaneously. When we write down our answers, our articulation is better, our filtering of the mind is better. And when we filter out those negative words, we are training our mind to talk better and to think better. So when you start writing, you will understand the difference in your vocal delivery, verbal delivery as well. Mirror practice, audio recording, and talking to your friends or family, and just sitting down with them and telling them to take a mock, or give them a few questions to ask and answer them. So how mirror practice will help you is that you can judge your own body language, whether you're smiling, whether you're frowning while answering. These are some natural traits which we have imbibed over the years. So about like 25-27 years of habits you cannot drastically undo, but you can refine yourself. You can increase your smiling if you're a complete poker face. You can reduce your smile if you are very extrovert, or if you do not have any kind of filters, you are a talker, you're a natural talker and you talk a lot. So if you're giving a lot of answers and you're not taking pauses, or while talking, if we are still thinking about the answer, there is a habit of doing so we are verbalizing the mental pause. So that should not happen, and you can practice all these things. So in my first attempt, all these mistakes I refined, and when I went this time, my delivery was very refined and polished, and my choice of words was very polished. Then I would say, so most of us have been studying for prelims, sitting on a chair in some remote study room or at home. And even during the mains, our interaction with people is very less. And when it comes to interview, it is about putting your best foot forward. So your body language has to carry a lot of confidence in yourself. And one trick that I followed and many of my friends followed was this, that whenever we, like I was working during this attempt, so anyway I had to dress up like a officer while going to office. So that was already being taken care of. But even some friends who were going to study room and studying every day for the interview, they used to wear formals and go to the study room. So that there is that kind of confidence that, okay, you are an aspiring civil servant and you have to be refined in the way you talk, walk, dress. So this is something that there is a very good saying, fake it till you make it. So this was what some of my friends followed, that we used to dress up like it was interview every day. So that really helped us in making us have that aura inside us and having that alertness that, okay, I'm appearing for the interview. And it subconsciously it increased our confidence, and the body language was also way much better than where we started. Then last thing is, if you don't know an answer, it's okay. It is absolutely okay, and there is no need to be apologetic, and no need to show that apology during your interview. You can gracefully say that, sorry sir, I don't know. I will have to read about this more. I am unaware of it. I cannot recall it. I do not remember. So there are multiple ways of saying I don't know that can be practiced. And the last thing is, be confident and be proud of your journey. Everybody has a different journey, and everybody has their own set of problems and accomplishments, successes and failures. So there are examples where a person has only given attempts and has not done anything else, because he knew, he was clear that he always wants to enter the civil services. So when you are asked that question in the interview, Okay, so you were just preparing, you were not doing anything else. Do not be apologetic of that fact. That is a fact of your life, and you cannot be sorry for living your life and making life choices that suited you at that point of time. So this is something that you have to be very aware of, because that will show you as a very like self-sufficient person emotionally also, and in the capacity of a future bureaucrat also. Then some exercises to do daily is that sometimes contingency questions are asked in an interview, like if you are made an SP of this district, or if you are made a secretary for this ministry and you have to form a policy about this thing or some scheme. So such questions we have to think really structurally, short term, medium term, long term objectives, measures to be taken, challenges we will face during it, budget constraints and all of that. So it can be done on a daily basis or an alternate basis, that you give yourself a case study and you study that every single day. You think about it, you do brainstorming for this, and literally make an interview notebook. Write down all the brainstorming that you're doing, and that will help you clear the mental clutter as well. And everything of your interview journey will be well documented as well. Secondly, practice. Practice writing down answers, verbalizing those answers, making videos of yourself, talking to your friends, family. So for me, I personally used to give a set of questions to my younger brother to answer, or my mother to ask, and I used to answer them. And I used to always wear this hat of a civil servant, that I am already a civil servant, then how will I respond to this question? So practice is important. And I'll again emphasize on writing down the answers. So this is a very underrated tip that many people do not do. Writing down your answers, this is what one of my mentors here at Level Up had told me. Writing down answers helps you articulate a lot, and it also helps you remove the mental contradictions that we would give away directly or spontaneously during a verbal interview. But when you're preparing your answers on the most obvious questions that will come from your Daf, writing them down and making a questionnaire, rewriting them, improvising those answers, discussing them with your mentors, that will really help you. So this is how I would summarize it. The key takeaway from this interaction with you all is presence of mind and self-belief. So I'll elaborate on this. Presence of mind is the most difficult thing to achieve on the day of interview, or even during the preparation for an interview, because since morning or whatever, my interview was in the morning schedule, forenoon. So you go there and it is sunny, it is summer season mostly in Delhi, and you're sweating and you're already tensed also, and a lot of formalities are being done. This year then there was a face shield and the mask and all the code protocols we had to follow. And then we go inside and then we are sitting on the chairs waiting for our turn. So what happens is, like, this is what I've heard from many of my friends, that their whole life goes like a flashback in their own minds, and like they are really thinking on a plethora of things, that again, as I said, will I be selected? There is this uncertainty, life or death issue. This is my last attempt. If I fail it, then there is no more opportunity for me. Or this is my first attempt. I am not well prepared for this. People who have worked before, who have had job before, they'll perform better than me. Even somebody who has dressed better than you in the interview area or that building, that also can create a lot of anxiety in people, and I have seen such people. So be very self-assured. Be proud of yourself that you have reached that place, and just be happy with yourself about what you have accomplished. And with that joy and happiness and a peace in mind, you go inside the interview hall. That will help you to have presence of mind, in the sense that you are present and you are with those 5 people. And presence of mind will help you to comprehend the question in the fullest. So as I said, as I quoted the Dowry example, he completely missed the focus of the question. He only concentrated on the keyword dowry. So that is not something that is expected from you, because as a bureaucrat, you will be having a lot of meetings on a daily basis. There are hundreds of meetings happening in a day in the life of an IAS officer. And if you can't comprehend what is going on in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it will reflect very poorly in your work as well. So presence of mind is the most important thing, as well as the most difficult thing to achieve. But if you practice for it, if you do what is suitable for you. For example, I used to do a lot of positive self-talk, or I used to do yoga, I used to meditate. So all these things, whatever suits you, whatever helps you for being positive, that should be done during this preparation phase. And secondly, self-belief. Do not enter the UPSC building with a lot of doubts about yourself in your mind, that I am not good at this, or these are my weaknesses, etc. Mostly what happens in stressful situations, we tend to only focus on the negative things or the weaknesses that we have, and we just completely forget our achievements, what we have achieved, where we have succeeded, what are the positive things that we have done and achieved in life. So again, here also there has to be balance of judgment. You have to be very balanced about yourself. You have to acknowledge your weaknesses very gracefully, and you have to also be proud of the fact that you have done a lot of good in your life as well, and you have achieved a lot in your life as well. So with that, I think I'll start with the questions. Abhiram Mishra says, ma'am, your answer is too optimistic in a way that it is neglecting the issue altogether. Doesn't it show that I am being fake before the board regarding riots, mob lynching issue? Abhiram, it's about how you phrase it. I am not being optimistic in the sense that riots are happening, but it's okay. It's a small thing, and it's only happening in a small pocket, or it's not very frequent or anything. The point I'm trying to convey here is that you have to acknowledge that there are problems, that there are riots, there are mob lynching cases, but it is not something that that is a habit of our society. It is a problem and an issue that we have to resolve, and then you can give ways to resolve that issue. And then you have to also focus on the positive examples, that there are so many examples which we can see, which talk about communal harmony, about respect towards women, etc. So the whole point that I'm trying to convey is, you have to acknowledge the negative issues or the problems in our society in a constructive way. Do not go overboard with your words, that, as I said, that our society is immature, or our society is being very intolerant, and it is very commonsensical to just be respectful towards other religious views or values. But to some people, it does not come so easily. So do not go overboard in expressing your personal belief. I will always say that there will always be a difference between your personal beliefs and your beliefs as a civil servant, because there you are bound by the Constitution of India, and you have to think in a constitutionally correct manner. So that will come by practice, and the choice of words will also come by practice. So you might hear it in a very optimistic way that I am neglecting the issue, but that is not how you should answer it. You have to answer it in a way that will clearly acknowledge that yes, there are issues in our society, and these are the ways that can be tackled. And on the other side, there are positive examples also. I hope I have answered you well enough. Manasi Deshpande says, how to manage the anxiety just before the interview. I get jittery with tension and think it might affect performance in the actual interview. Please give some tips. As I said, anxiety comes from a place of self-doubt, uncertainty. Obviously, you are appearing, it is a test of your personality. And any examination that we give is bound to make us nervous and vulnerable and overthink. So how to manage anxiety is that stop overthinking, stop thinking of the interview as a burden or as a daunting situation. Visualize it in a positive way, that you have entered the UPSC members chamber, and you are very positive and happy, and you're smiling, and you answer all the, this is a visualization technique that I'm telling you, and you answer some questions very well, some questions, and be reasonable with the visualization also. It is not that you will get all the answers to all the questions. Somewhere you will falter. The point is not to make a blunder. Like, do not go to extremes in any question that is asked. So that is one way. Positive visualization is one way. Secondly, positive self-talk every single day, that you are good enough and you are ready for this job, and you are ready, you are personally suitable, to use UPSC's word, you are personally suitable for this job, for a career in public service. So this kind of positive talk, it might sound very artificial to you right now, because all these things are very intangible to achieve. But believe me, I have practiced all these things, and anybody I feel who must have scored well, they will tell you that they were meditating regularly and they were having some sort of physical activity, may it be yoga or sports or some kind of aerobic exercise or something like that. And as I've already mentioned, do not make this interview a life or death situation. It is a very good opportunity for you to converse with the best minds in India. So take it as an opportunity. That's it. Anyway, and understand this, anyway, if you're anxious or you're nervous or you're depressed, it is going to anyway hamper your performance. So might as well show some belief in yourself that you have reached this stage after clearing 2 hurdles and after surpassing so many other candidates who were also well informed and well skilled and deserving, but you made it to that point. So that kind of belief in yourself and confidence in yourself is the only way you can manage that anxiety. So I think, and getting jittery with tension. So again, this comes from a place when there is a lot of misconception about the interview process, that what if I don't get, what if I don't know some answer, or what if I get stuck, what if I go blank. Those people will always make sure that you are comfortable in that position, and you will always be helped by those members even when you don't hear some answer, because this was a problem we faced with the mask and the face shield, that sometimes we could not hear or we could not read the lips of the members, or we could not understand what they were saying. So those kinds of hurdles you have to just freely ask them politely that, sir, can you please pardon, I could not hear the question properly, can you please repeat it for me. So be comfortable that people there are not sitting there to find negative points about you. They are going to make a very balanced judgment about you on the basis of what you say. So be self-assured. Self-assured is the word. That is the takeaway from this. What should be the strategy to keep cool just before entering the room? Were you not at all conscious before entering the room? What was your trick to deal with this? So the clerk came inside where the seating area, and he said, "Madam, it is you are next. So you are called to the to sit outside the members' cabin." So I went, and obviously I was nervous. Deep down, subconsciously, 10%, 20% of yourself is very nervous that, okay, if you get selected, your life is going to change. If you don't get selected, again, you have to give prelims. So that is like snake and ladder game that goes on in your mind endlessly. But again, as I said, I was very sure of the fact that I'm not going to enter the cabin with anxiety in mind or with nervousness in mind. So I have used this proverb, fake it till you make it, so profusely during my preparation. So when I sat down on that chair outside waiting for the door to open, I was wearing my mask, and I was just smiling. I was just smiling broadly. I knew nobody was watching me, and I was also humming my favorite song. And I was pretending that I am just sitting at a bus stop or sitting somewhere in a garden or something. And this is actual real trick that I have followed. And then in 2-3 minutes, the door opened, and he said, "Okay, now you can go inside." So with that same smile, I went, and I'll tell you one thing. When you smile, it will have physiological and biological impact on you as well, on your brain as well. So So this is something intangible that I did, and I think it helped me because when I entered, the tone of my voice, the pitch of my voice, all that conveyed that I was very present there and I was not burdened. So this is how I managed to keep the cool. And once I entered, once the chairperson started talking to me, I was only listening to her. I was not thinking about will I get selected or what will happen next, what question they will ask me. I was only focused. It is like cricket. If Sachin Tendulkar thinks about how he is going to play the next ball, he is going to get out on this ball. So you have to be present, and you know that is the only way out. So you better try to make that happen, and you better use all the tricks that I've already shared so that you are present and you're happy. Does it help to know in detail the background of the UPSC members? You can have a basic information about the members of the UPSC, but I personally did not do that because I wanted that anonymity, or I wanted that distance, and I wanted myself to be less informed about where they come from, what work they have done, because that will create a bias in your mind. So what suits you, you can do that. If you are comfortable with knowing the chairperson beforehand, you can do it. But if that is going to affect your peace of mind, and if you get to know that okay, you are under this panel, and if it is going to start a chain of thoughts in your mind that okay, she or he was working in this field, he retired from here, his education is from this subject, he also has political science masters, I have also done masters in political science, so now I'm going to grill about political science questions. If that is the sort of response that you're going to give, then it is better not to know about UPSC members. And to be honest, anyway, knowing these details may or may not help you, because those 20-25 minutes you have to be so present that knowing this information, personally, I believe it would not have made a difference to me. So do whatever suits you, and whatever helps you to be positive and present. Himanshi is asking, ma'am, is it mandatory to wear a sari? It is not mandatory to wear a sari. If you are getting jitters just by the idea of wearing a sari, do not go forward. Wear what you feel comfortable in, but I will still insist that wear an Indian formal. Be it a salwar kameez or a salwar suit or a sari, whatever makes you comfortable and whatever suits the climate. If you're coming out from outside Delhi and you are not comfortable with a sari, it is better that you wear what you're comfortable in and have your peace of mind. Your attire should be neat and you should be well dressed. You should not be shabby, or you should not look like you have just woken up and you have just come. What our attire conveys is that you take this opportunity very seriously and you have prepared yourself mentally also and outwardly also. Because as a civil servant, perception is also important. So if you are not well dressed, or if you do not take effort on yourself, that will also reflect in other aspects and other walks of life. So just make sure that you are well dressed and you're tidy and you're well kept. It does not matter whether you wear a sari or not, and be comfortable. You have to be very comfortable. Chandan Singh is asking, is it normal to get nervous for a few minutes during the interview? How nervous do you feel? Does getting nervous for a few minutes impact the interview marks? It is absolutely normal to get nervous, but I'm telling you from my personal experience, I had made it a point not to get nervous at any point in my interview. Let's try to analyze why we get nervous. We get nervous because one thing could be we do not know the answer for a question, or our mind is somewhere else. We are thinking about the future or the past and we are not in the present. So that can make you nervous. Secondly, as I said, you must have read about the UPSC member and you are subconsciously into that okay, he is going to ask me these questions, I'm going to be cornered. I have not read this current affairs. This topic I have missed out. So now if that question is asked, then I'm gone. So nervousness comes from that place when you're not self-assured and when you don't tell yourself that, okay, I am well prepared for the interview and I am going to do the best I can. So I personally did not get nervous, and nervousness also will lead to another thing. It will lead you to comprehend the questions in a poor way. If you are not completely present in that situation, if you are nervous, your mind is preoccupied and question comprehension will not be to the core. You will not hit the bullseye. And if you don't comprehend the question, again, as I said, it is very important for a civil servant to be able to comprehend well, either verbally or written communication. So that is why I had made it a point not to showcase my weaknesses or not to get nervous, because I was continuously telling myself that these are 5 human beings and I am a human being and we are just having a conversation. They are going to ask me a few questions and I have to give my well-informed opinions to that. So that is how I kept my nervousness into control. Obviously, subconsciously, I must have been nervous, but that did not overpower the positivity I had inside me. Abhiram, ma'am, got your point in later section of talk. Being constitutionally correct is the key. Thank you. Ma'am, can we speak mixed Hindi English in interview if I have opted Hindi language? If you have opted Hindi language for interview, then you are expected to talk in Hindi, but sometimes you may not remember Hindi words for certain things. So with prior permission, maybe when the interview starts and when the chairman is still conversing with you, you can politely ask him or her that, ma'am, I am more comfortable with bilingual. May I use Hindi as well as English? If they allow you, they will 100% allow you, because for them communication is the key. So that way they are very flexible. And about that also, like I have to ask them for a favor or something like that, do not keep that hesitation or don't be apologetic in your mind. You ask them for permission and they granted it. That is the end of matter. Do not let that thought linger in your mind for the rest of the interview, that now that I have asked them for Hindi plus English, now my whole judgment will be done on the basis of this. So as I said, do not be apologetic of yourself. Be very proud of what your roots are, from where you have come, what struggles you have had to face, and what achievements you have had in that journey. So I think that sums up the interview preparation very well. And I think the questions are also over. So if anybody has any more questions, please do ask. Okay, so I think I have answered all of the questions that were asked, and I hope that I have conveyed the preparation that I myself did. From 160 to 209, I can very well tell you that interview preparation has to be focused on really well. Do not leave it to your destiny or luck. Work hard at yourself, work hard at improving yourself, and believe me, if you are honest with yourself, if you're honest with your preparation, interview preparation can be handled really well, and you can make a distinction between your own beliefs and between your beliefs as a civil servant, as a future civil servant. It may feel artificial or dishonest, but that is not so. Even at home, it so happens that in your own home, you interact with your family in a different way. When relatives come over, you filter your thoughts and you respond differently. So that kind of filter has to be there, because this, do not forget that this is a formal interaction and you have to talk formally. Do not talk like a student or like a layman voicing their opinions. You are supposed to be talking like you're an arm of the government or an entity working for the government. So you have to, again I stress that you have to acknowledge that there are problems and that there are constructive ways of overcoming those obstacles. So don't go overboard in criticizing also and praising also. every time analyze every question very objectively, and always think, when in doubt, whenever you have to take a stand on a very controversial topic, always ask yourself how you would answer as a bureaucrat, as if you are answering to your senior up, or your boss, or some government authority who is senior to you. So that kind of thinking hat, if you adopt, that will really help you to come out of that conflict as to what answer you should give. And this will come only by practice. So prepare a questionnaire regarding your DAF and other things, and write down your answers. And I think, again, key takeaway from this is presence of mind and self-belief. If these two things are there, even if you have not read current affairs, if you did not have the time to brush upon current affairs or factual details, do not be very afraid of facts. I have heard this doubt so much that what if I don't know some answer? So in my own interview, I had 7 questions where I said, sir, I don't know. There was this question about Pune and Chennai, because Chennai was the place where I was posted. So our automobile sector, it has shifted to the south. What are the reasons for that? So I was completely unaware of that. And I had moved to Chennai only 4 months before my interview, and I was completely unaware of that. And I was very comfortable with not knowing it, because I am a human being and I cannot know everything. So I was very comfortable, and I said, sir, I really need to read about this. I am completely unaware of this. So if you convey it clearly, it is not going to harm your interview in any way. And there were some more 6 questions like this that I was completely blank about it. The key is to not let it make you nervous and not be apologetic about it. There's one more question. My achievement in academics isn't very much, neither extracurricular activities. Then how to prepare for DAF? Will it make my path more difficult? Not at all. It is not going to create any hurdles or obstacles in your interview score or anything. As I said, be very proud of your roots and from where you come. So if you are not really bright in academics, UPC has not set any such targets that, okay, you have to have so and so very high marks to give the UPSC or to appear for it. UPSC itself has provided you a level playing field, and not everybody can pursue extracurricular activities. Not everybody gets that opportunity to do so. For some, it can be a luxury to have a hobby, and it is perfectly fine. So how to prepare for your DAF is that you have to prepare about yourself, basics about yourself, your hometown, your state, your preferences, whatever you have written in those 4 columns in the summary sheet, like leadership, prizes, hobbies. Even if it is completely blank, right now is not the time to feel apologetic about it or to be worried about it. You have to accept yourself, and you have to let go of that fear. And your interview will be, sometimes it so happens that I have seen and experienced it myself also, that all my hobby area and all of those things, prizes, sports, everything was filled, but I did not get questions on any of that. My whole of my first interview completely went on current affairs and international relations. So you focus and channelize your energies on that you are well versed with current affairs, you are well versed with your optional, and you know what every basic detail of whatever word that you have mentioned in your DAF, be it your own name. So that is it from my side. I wish you all the best, and may you be very confident and happy when you enter that interview hall, and may all of you get the rank that you are wishing for. Thank you.